Family, I came to talk to the fighters tonight, not the ones who've got it all figured out, but the ones still wrestling with their peace, their power, and their paycheck. See, I know what it's like to smile in public and struggle in private, to feel like your mind is running you, your emotions are playing you, and your money, well, disappears before you can even breathe. But here's the truth. You were never called to be ruled by chaos. You were born to command the room, starting with the one inside your head. So tonight we're going to talk about what happens when you stop letting your mood, your mind, and your money control you, and you start learning how to master them instead. Because when you learn control, you step into freedom. And baby, when you're free, you're dangerous to everything that tried to break you. Let's talk about the mood, the thing nobody sees but everybody feels. Your mood can walk into a room before you do. It can speak for you before your mouth ever opens. And the truth is, too many of us are letting our moods drive the car of our lives while we sit in the passenger seat praying for peace and wondering why the journey feels so chaotic. Your mood is a response to what's going on around you, but if you're not careful, it will start controlling what goes on inside of you. And once it gets inside of you, it starts shaping your decisions, your relationships, your money habits, your self-talk, and even your faith. That's why mastering your mood is not a luxury, it's a necessity. We've been taught to chase success, control money, and impress people, but rarely are we taught to pause and ask, who's in charge of how I feel right now? Because if your answer is someone else, then you've already surrendered your power. See, life will throw things at you: stress, disappointment, delay to betrayal, and your mood is the first responder. But your mood is not supposed to be your leader. You've got to learn how to catch that feeling before it takes root and becomes your reality. It's one thing to feel something, it's another thing to follow it. Some of us are making lifetime decisions based on temporary emotions. You were just in a moment, just a mood, and now you've quit the job, burned the bridge, or spent the money trying to feel better, and the damage is done. But that damage didn't start in your bank account or on your phone, it started in your mood. That's why mastering it is so crucial. Your mood can either magnify your problem or clarify your purpose. When you don't master it, your reaction can cost you more than the actual problem. Now, I'm not saying don't feel, I'm saying don't be led by what you feel, because your feelings will lie to you. Your feelings will tell you to isolate when you need to press in. They'll tell you to spend when you need to save. They'll convince you to walk away when the blessing is just one mood swing away from breakthrough. Your emotions are indicators, not dictators. They tell you where you are, but they don't get to tell you where you're going. God gave you emotions, but he never told you to worship them. He gave you a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. That sound mind is your weapon. That sound mind reminds you that you can feel something and still choose differently. You can be frustrated and still move with wisdom. You can be angry and still respond with grace. You can be tired and still show up with excellence, because power doesn't show up in how loud you speak, but in how well you manage what's trying to manage you. Your thoughts are not just passing ideas, they are seeds. And every seed has the potential to grow into a mindset, a habit, or a lifestyle. If you don't take control of your thoughts, they will take control of you. Too many people are living in cycles of anxiety, fear, and self-doubt, not because life is always hard, but because their thinking has never been challenged. You cannot live a victorious life with a defeated mind. You cannot expect transformation without mental discipline. The same way you train your body to get stronger, you have to train your mind to think higher. We live in a world that tells us to trust every thought that comes into our head. If you feel it, it must be true. If you think it, it must be valid. But the truth is, not every thought is worthy of your agreement. Not every idea that crosses your mind deserves your attention. Some thoughts show up only to sabotage what God is building in your life. That's why mental discipline is not optional, it's spiritual warfare. The battleground is in the mind, and if you don't fight there, you'll lose everywhere else. Disciplining your mind means learning to pause before you react. It means asking yourself, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this aligned with where I'm going? Because your thoughts will either push you into purpose or pull you into procrastination. Some of you are not tired because you're overworked. You're tired because you're overthinking. You've rehearsed worst case scenarios in your mind so many times, your body is living in fear of something that hasn't even happened. That's what undisciplined thinking does. It creates chaos in places that should be at peace. This is where identity comes into play. When you don't know who you are, your mind becomes the playground for anything that sounds convincing. You believe you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy, because you never took the time to anchor your mind in truth. That's why the word says to renew your mind daily. Because just like your body gets dirty and needs a shower, your mind gets cluttered and needs cleansing. The discipline is in the decision. The decision to challenge your thoughts instead of submitting to them. The decision to speak life instead of replaying doubt. The decision to replace panic with perspective. That doesn't mean the thoughts won't come. It means they won't stay unless you give them permission. Emotional stability is not weakness, it's strength under control. In a world that celebrates loud reactions and dramatic responses, we've lost sight of the quiet power that comes with being grounded. There's a divine strategy in emotional discipline. The ability to feel deeply and still choose wisely is a skill that too many people overlook. You can't build something that lasts if your emotions are tearing it down every time you feel frustrated, misunderstood, or unseen. Emotional maturity isn't about suppressing what you feel, it's about stewarding it. And that kind of stewardship will take you further than talent ever could. God gave you emotions, yes, but He never intended for them to govern your destiny. Emotions are signals. They tell you something's going on, but they are not supposed to be steering wheels. Letting your emotions lead your life is like letting a fire alarm decide whether or not you go back inside the building. You have to assess the signal, not surrender to it. Some of us are making permanent decisions based on temporary emotional waves. The argument, the offense, the disappointment, it shook you, but it doesn't have to shape you. Spiritual growth isn't just measured by how often you pray or how many scriptures you quote. It's seen in how well you manage your emotions when things don't go your way. It's seen in how you respond when you're tested, overlooked, or corrected. The fruit of the Spirit includes self-restraint for a reason. You can't carry divine purpose with emotional instability. Because purpose comes with pressure, and pressure doesn't create weakness, it reveals it. If you keep cracking every time life presses you, it's not just about the pressure. It's about what needs to be strengthened within. Some of the greatest blessings in your life will require you to stay calm when you want to react, to wait when you want to rush, and to love when you want to shut down. Emotional stability is not the absence of feeling, it's the presence of peace. Peace is a weapon. And when you walk in peace, you disrupt every atmosphere that's trying to break you. That's why the enemy doesn't mind if you're talented as long as you're reactive. Because talent might get you in the room, but emotional stability is what keeps you there. Many of us are praying for elevation, but our emotions are not ready for the next level. How can you lead when every challenge causes you to retreat? How can you steward relationships when every disagreement turns into a meltdown? Emotional strength is built through intentional practice. You don't wait until the storm hits to learn how to stay calm. You train in the quiet. You set boundaries for your emotions the same way you do for your time and your money. Because if you don't, they'll spill over into places that were never meant to carry that weight. Money doesn't move without direction, and vision is the compass that tells it where to go. The truth is, many people don't have a money problem, they have a vision problem. When you don't know where you're going, your finances will reflect your confusion. You'll spend randomly, save inconsistently, and invest emotionally. But when you get clear about your vision, your money starts to align with purpose. Every dollar gets an assignment. Every purchase gets weighed against the bigger picture because money is a tool, not a trophy. It's meant to build, to serve, to support, never to define your worth. Vision is not about seeing where you are, it's about seeing where you're going. And if you only make financial decisions based on your current situation, you will keep repeating your current situation. You've got to begin thinking like your future self. What does the future version of you need financially? What do they wish you would stop spending on? What are they grateful you invested in? Those questions shift your mindset from short-term gratification to long-term transformation. And when that shift happens, your relationship with money begins to mature. Too often we use money to escape instead of to expand. We buy to feel better, not to build better. But retail therapy won't heal what vision neglects. The more disconnected you are from your vision, the more likely you are to misuse your money. That's why purpose is the anchor. When you know your why, you'll stop wasting your wealth. You'll stop needing external validation that comes with designer labels and flashy purchases, because nothing feels better than knowing your money is fueling something bigger than. Vision brings clarity, and clarity brings conviction. You begin to say no to things that don't align with your goals, not because you're broke, but because you're focused. Discipline becomes easier when you're driven by purpose. You stop comparing your journey to everyone else's highlight reel because you're too busy building what God told you to build. You recognize that money in the hands of someone with vision becomes impact. It becomes legacy. It becomes freedom, not just for you, but for those connected to you. This is why budgeting and planning aren't just financial habits, they're spiritual disciplines. They reflect how seriously you take the assignment on your life. If God is giving you provision, He's expecting stewardship. And stewardship starts with vision, not just a dream, but a plan. Not just an idea, but intention. Where there is no vision, the people perish, and so does their financial potential. Money without vision invites chaos. But money with vision invites order, expansion, and overflow. When you write the vision and make it plain, your money starts to follow your mission. You don't just chase income, you chase impact. And as your vision grows, so does your capacity to attract, manage, and multiply resources. Because vision doesn't just see the future, it funds it. So many people hear the word budget and immediately think of lack, limits, and saying no to everything they love. But budgeting was never about restriction, it's about redirection. It's not about cutting you off from joy, it's about pointing your money toward your priorities. Without a budget, your money wanders. It flows into every emotion, every sale, every moment of stress or celebration. But when you create a budget, you're telling your money you have a job to do. You're not just spending, you're sending every dollar with purpose. When you have no financial direction, life will spend your money for you. Emergencies will come, and because you weren't ready, you'll pay with interest. Opportunities will knock, and because you weren't prepared, you'll have to say no. But a budget creates margin. And margin creates freedom. It gives you room to breathe, room to plan, room to say yes to what matters and no to what distracts. There's power in knowing that every dollar is accounted for, not in fear, but in faith, because faith without a financial plan is just wishful thinking. We often pray for increase, but God blesses what we can manage. And if we can't manage the small, we disqualify ourselves from the overflow. Budgeting is an act of stewardship. It's how you prove that you're ready for more. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't know where it's going. Some people making six figures are still broke, not because they're not earning, but because they're not planning. More money without more discipline just creates more chaos. Budgeting also exposes your values. When you look at where your money goes, you'll see what you really prioritize. You might say your goals are freedom, travel, or investing in your purpose, but if your bank statements say otherwise, something has to shift. A budget invites that clarity. It tells the truth about how aligned your finances are with your vision. And if they're not aligned, the budget helps you recalibrate, not in shame, but in wisdom. Redirection means you're choosing to sacrifice now for peace later. It means saying no to something today so you can say yes to something greater tomorrow. It's not about punishment. It's about preparation. You're preparing for the life you say you want. You're preparing to fund your dreams without debt. You're preparing to bless others without burnout. Budgeting gives you options, and options are a form of power. You're no longer reacting to money. You're leading it. Budget doesn't limit your life, it protects it. It protects your vision from being hijacked by impulse. It protects your peace from being stolen by overdraft notices and last-minute panic. It gives you the authority to walk into your finances with confidence instead of confusion. Because when you know what you have, where it's going, and why, it's no longer about surviving paycheck to paycheck. It becomes about building something that lasts. Control is not about being rigid or cold, it's about being intentional. When you learn to control your mood, your mind, and your money, you create space. And in that space, you find clarity, you find freedom, you find capacity. Capacity to grow, capacity to lead, capacity to pour into others without constantly feeling like you're running on empty. Without control, life will drain you. Every emotion, every distraction, every expense will pull from your energy until there's nothing left for the things that really matter. But when you take back control, you stop living in survival mode and start living with strategy. Chaos is not your natural state. You weren't designed to live in constant reaction to everything around you. You were created to rule and to reign. That means mastering what's within your reach before you ask God for more. Control brings order, and order brings increase. Some people aren't lacking potential, they're lacking structure. The blessing is ready, but the vessel isn't. You can't walk into a new season with the same undisciplined habits and expect different results. Control is what prepares you for what you've been praying for. There's a reason people feel stuck when they're not in control. Because being out of control is exhausting, it clouds your judgment, it makes you second guess your decisions. It keeps you busy but not productive. It makes everything feel urgent when in reality only a few things are truly essential. But control brings stillness, and stillness is powerful. It's in stillness that you hear God clearly. It's in stillness that your creativity flows. It's in